I want to dive into your journey to get to this point a little bit. It's interesting. Like, it's not traditional. A lot of twists and turns in it. What was the point when it all started that you knew you wanted to be a football coach?
So I've always known I wanted to coach.
Yeah.
You know, I was the guy that kind of grew up loving basketball as a kid. I wanted to go play, with the Orlando Magic, like me, Penny Hardaway, Shaquille O'Neal, like that was great. And then somewhere right around 7th grade, I kind of pieced together, okay, I don't think this is going to happen. Like
Good self-awareness.
I'm not the best basketball player in Richmond, Missouri, where I graduated 92 people. So I got to reset. And I had a PE teacher, his name was Ken Simmons in middle school, and he just made, like, PE was obviously my favorite subject, but he made every single day a competition. He made it so fun to walk in that room, and that's kind of where I had the realization, like, this coaching, teaching thing could really be for me. And so I think, honestly, from then on, I knew once I'm done playing, I'm going to coach. I'm going to coach. I'm going to teach. Both my parents were teachers, but I just never realized what level. I thought I'd be a high school coach probably forever.
Yeah, and you were a high school coach, right, when you started your career? Yeah. So how did it start? Like, take us through that journey a little bit. High school coach, and then I've heard a little bit of a story of, like, you handwritten notes to every coach. I got to hear this story.
So, I was an elementary PE teacher, right? So I would teach elementary PE during the day, and then I'd drive over to Park Hill South High School. I'd normally start there in the morning for weights, go teach, my teaching job, and then I'd go do weights or football practice after school every day. And I just kind of always had this hunger to do a little bit more than what you do in high school, right? I really wanted to be, all ball.
Yeah.
And whatever level you're at, you always think that the level above you, all they do is football. Now being at college, you realize all the other fires that people put out and the recruiting and all the other pieces that go with it. But I had a desire early, now playing at an NAIA school where I didn't have a lot of connections. I didn't know anybody really in college football. So I started writing letters. My wife would give me a hard time. I'd come home from work and I'd pull up, my computer, and I just start going through every staff in the nation, like literally, and I'd email and just trying to make connections, and honestly didn't get a lot of responses. So, I've told this story a lot of times, but eventually, a guy named Keith Patterson, who I'd met at a coaching clinic down in Tulsa, gave me a call back. Todd Graham and his staff had just taken the job at Pitt. Yeah. This is back when we were recruiting you.
Yeah.
And, he said, hey, we might have something for you. I'll call you after signing day. And signing day kind of came and went. I didn't get a call, but I told my wife, like, this is the first time that I've actually had a Division I coach say, hey, we might have a shot, might have a job for you. So then I drove out to Pittsburgh. I went and taught that day, and I got my car and I drove to Pittsburgh and waited to meet with the staff. And there's a lot of details to that. I mean, it's a long drive. I remember changing into a suit at a gas station before I got there.
They weren't even there, right?
They weren't there. Yeah. So when I showed up, I'm waiting in the lobby for several hours, and a guy named Eric Thatcher comes up. He's a good friend today, works for the 49ers, but he comes up and he goes, oh yeah, all the coaches are at Happy Valley. They're at Penn State for a clinic. So they weren't even there. So I stayed the night that night, waited to meet with Keith the next day. He said, well, I got a job for you. It was $800 a month. I have a wife and 2 kids right now at this point and a mortgage. And I said, yeah, it makes sense. Let's go. Yeah. So that was the start. Drove back, basically resigned from my job there and, in Missouri, and then came right back out and started as a GA there at Pitt.